Did you grow up with adverse childhood experiences? And what does this have to do with childhood trauma and toxic stress? Well, adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, include physical abuse, emotional abuse, neglect, caregiver mental illness, and household violence. The more ACEs you experienced growing up, the higher your likelihood of heart disease, insulin problems, low performance at school and work, and substance abuse later in life. So how many different ACEs did you grow up with? If you're curious, you can take the ACEs quiz from the link that I have included below. It's quick, it's just 10 questions, and it gives you an idea, but by no means is it a deep exploration into you as a person. It doesn't go into your strengths and your personality and things like that. So be mindful that the ACEs score doesn't reveal any fatalistic future, but rather it is a guide to what you may be susceptible to given your childhood trauma. ACEs can't predict accurately how your life will pan out, but a high ACE score can serve as a rough first screener to identify whether you can benefit from some treatments or interventions to heal yourself, or it can even just give you an awareness of what you may need to do to protect yourself from negative behaviors and poor health. Now, let's address social issues, because we don't live in a vacuum, do we? How does our interactions with society, with people, impact us, given the ACEs you have been exposed to? So in this case, we can refer to social problems like bullying, discrimination, and community violence. So firstly, why are we even considering this? Like, why is this even a problem in this context? Most of us have grown up with some form of bullying or discrimination, or we've been exposed to community violence. We've witnessed aggression, we've witnessed racism. So if it's so normal, why do these social violence affect us so much? Well, evolutionarily, when you are rejected from your community, it's pretty much a death sentence. You'll end up living at the edges of your community or your tribe with subpar access to food and shelter and care. And in worst cases, you might even be ousted from your tribe. And so this is dangerous because once you're banished, you will be a target for other tribes. And you'll also have less food, less shelter, less support. So your chances of survival or surviving well is significantly diminished. So when we experience such social rejection, our body and our brain goes into survival mode, fight, flight, freeze, because your body and your brain hasn't really had a chance to evolve into the era we are in now, the information era, the digital era, the era of technology. The history of human progress has been far too rapid for the biology to catch up. So going back to the impact of such experiences, if you have encountered social violence and you go back to an unsupportive home environment without responsible adults, these adverse social experiences can contribute to toxic stress because the adults are not around to make you feel safe and cared for when the outside world is in chaos and danger. And this leads to a maladaptive stress response, which I had talked about in my previous video, Why Can't I Heal from Trauma? So what does the maladaptive stress response do to our immune system? Well, it sets it on overdrive as the default mode, leading to long-term wear and tear of the brain and the body. So you can imagine revving a car for days or weeks at a time, and that might be similar to or comparable to what's happening to your nervous system in your body. This diagram is another representation of the lasting impacts of ACEs. And if you do find the contents of this video valuable or engaging so far, please do kindly hit the like button below and subscribe to my channel to be notified for future content. So what are the health risks of ACEs? Well, behaviorally, they manifest through low physical activity, smoking, alcoholism, or addictions of any type, I would add, And I would put sugar under that category as well. Drug use, absconding, or missing work or school. Physically, they manifest through, no surprises here, obesity from not moving very much, cognitive decline or cognitive stunting, which means that when your brain is starting to develop, or the child's brain is developing in early life or in adolescence, these social environments or these adverse experiences can actually stunt the growth of the brain. Diabetes, depression, suicidal ideation and attempts. So that is an extension of depression, STDs from reckless risk-taking behaviors, heart disease, cancer, stroke, and COPD. COPD stands for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, and it's a chronic inflammatory lung disease that causes an obstructed airflow. And lastly, broken bones. Here is a pyramid to understand the effects of ACEs. As you can see, the ACE is not the baseline. There are a couple other things that need to be around for an ACE to be considered what it is. So you'd need to have some form of historical trauma, intergenerational trauma, along with some poor social conditions or local context. And then when an ACE happens, it just gets worse. So how can we reduce the effects of ACEs and toxic stress? Well, if you have children or you work with children, early interventions can be really powerful. This could simply be having conversations with the kids about what had happened, how they feel, and teaching them some skills, social skills and self-regulating skills of how to interact in an adverse environment. One key thing here is to ensure that they feel assured, safe, and secure at the end of the conversation, and to repeatedly try and instill that feeling with them. Dr. Shonkoff, a pediatrician and director of the Center of Developing Child at Harvard University, he said that such interventions have been shown to help children with later learning and literacy and boost their resilience by helping them build secure attachments with caring adults. And the research suggests that a child needs only just one safe, loving, consistent caregiver in early life to give him or her a significantly better shot at growing up well. And if you find yourself in this position, you can reflect upon who that person might have been for you or could have been for you. Dr. Shonkoff also tells us that there are people with high ACEs score who do very well in life. And I've actually had the privilege to meet many of them through my clinical work. So according to him, resilience is built through life, through close, healthy relationships. So if you've had a traumatic history, your partner, your family, or close friends, they can be aids to your resilience. Now, what else can you do? Well, you can talk to a mental health professional. So remember how exclusion and rejection and even isolation can be damaging. I mean, we all know this. We've been through, 2 years of on and off lockdowns. So when you talk about things and you share your experiences with a trained trauma therapist, you're in a bubble of safety and security that you both build together over time. And you can work through the nuts and bolts of your ACEs. Meditation and breathing exercises, engaging in expressive therapies like anything art related in terms of writing, literature, visual arts, performing arts, physical activities, sports, martial arts. And martial arts would also be very important for children who have been exposed to ACEs, because it gives them that sense of agency and control of how to interact in a social environment that is toxic or problematic. And it also builds confidence. It empowers them. Not necessarily that they need to go out and show what they've learned in class, their fighting skills, but more that they know they can handle adversity. So that is quite important. And I've grown up in a society in Southeast Asia where it is quite common to send your kids to karate or taekwondo when they're really little. although it's more play, it does equip them with these really valuable social skills and self-regulation skills. Yoga, and if you know me, you know that I will advocate specifically for yin yoga, which is a meditative form of yoga that works with the connective tissues and especially the parasympathetic nervous system. It's a very powerful antidote for trauma survivors. And I personally like to recommend clients to start out with yoga with Adrienne. And when you're a little bit seasoned, I recommend yoga with Kassandra, and that's Kassandra with a K. They're both on YouTube. They have an extensive collection on their YouTube channels, followed by Travis Eliot. And he's quite philosophical. So if you'd like to listen to a philosophical lecture to accompany your practice, I do recommend him. It's very insightful. It's quite motivating and inspiring. So I've also listed these links below. And finally, almost finally, social support. Reach out. So way before I had any trauma literacy, I'd always been somewhat sociable, even though I am an introvert, particularly when I'm in trouble or feeling unwell, because nobody will know your troubles until you tell them. And if you're acting out through maladaptive behaviors, or you're being mean to others, you're just being a disagreeable person, then it's even harder to get help because people will stay away from you. And finally, although this is not an option yet in Australia, but it is in the US and some states, psychedelic assisted therapies have now been proven to be an effective and efficient way to process trauma, although I don't believe that this is a viable option for children. If you'd like to hear more on alternative approaches to trauma care, you can listen to the Counselor's Couch. It's a podcast platform by the Australian Counselling Association. It's on Spotify and Apple. You can tune into episode 4, where I share further information on this topic. It runs for about 30 minutes. And again, the link to the description will be below. Now, I'd like to end this video with a couple of quotes here. People start to heal the moment they feel heard. And when you can tell your story and it doesn't make you cry, you know you have healed. So if you or someone you know are struggling with related issues, please find trauma-informed supports rather than surrendering to punishment. There are various different supports, from domestic violence to rehab establishments, specific programs in schools, and even private practitioners. People with an intrusive trauma history, they need to be heard to be able to heal. So give these people, including yourself, a chance to commit to healing. And that's the final key point I want to drive home before ending this video. Commit to your recovery, because it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be quick, but it sure as hell will be worth your while. Now, if you have any other tips and comments on adverse childhood experience, please comment and share below. I've provided the links and resources for the ACEs quiz, the yoga channels, a link to the previous video on barriers to healing from trauma, and the podcast. If you'd like to connect with me, you can visit my website, message me on social media, or drop me an email. Thank you for listening, and until next time.